Pete Rose records and the baseball cards that love them. When you think of the records that Pete Rose accumulated over his major league career, one inevitably rises to the top. The all-time mark for his hits he established in 1985 to surpass Ty Cobb. That 4,192 record-breaking number of hits was such a big number. It inspired t-shirts, license plates, and all sorts of other memorabilia. In the end, Charlie Hustle finished with 4,256 safeties, and we'd later learn that he outdistanced Cobb by more than what we thought due to some record-keeping errors in the early 20th century. But as monumental as Rose's hit mark stands today, even in the face of all the controversy and disgrace that has followed, the fact is, it's just one of many Pete Rose records lined up in the roll call of baseball history. Here, then, is a rundown of the records Rose holds, broken down by overall Major League Baseball marks and National League only marks. Oh, and as you might expect, there have been plenty of baseball cards issued over the years commemorating Rose's accomplishments, so I've included a quick discussion of most of those along the way, too. Let's hustle to it. Major League records. These are the marks that Rose holds above all other major leaguers, regardless of where they played. Most career at-bats, 14,053. Rose leads second placer Hank Aaron by nearly 1,700 at-bats, but this just isn't the sort of record that's sexy enough for its own card. Most career plate appearances, 15,890. Rose has an even wider lead here, with 1,898, but it's even a less glamorous record than at-bats, no card that I know of. Most career hits, 4,256. Now this record is where it's all at when it comes to Pete Rose. It's the big one. No, not 700 WLW. This is the one that made him a hero for a while and put him in the same breath with Ty Cobb. And it's the one that got Pete Rose some sweet commemorative cardboard, like this 1986 Topps record breaker, number 206. And the 1986 Fleer Superstar Special, number 628, with even specialer gold accents. Let's not forget Donruss's cheeky, tie-breaking card either. And then, of course, there was the embarrassment of Rose's riches in the base top set, beyond the record breaker card. Most career singles, 3,215. This one pretty much came along for the ride with Charlie Hustle's overall hits record, but Topps used it as a prelude to their 1986 barrage of Rose cards on the previous slide, by including him on number 6 record breaker card in the 1985 set. Most career times on base, 5,929. Rose stands 330 safeties ahead of his nearest competition here, that would be Barry Bonds, making for perhaps the most disliked 1 through 2 on any baseball leader set ever. Most career outs, 10,328. With the volume of times Rose has come to the plate, it's probably not a big surprise he's made more outs than anyone else in history. As with any other Pete Rose record on this list, outs is not close. He leads Aaron by nearly 1,200. Most career games played, 3,562. Pete has a lead on Carl Yastrzemski by more than 250 games, but Yaz made all those appearances for just one team, the Boston Red Sox. Really amazing. Most winning games played in during career, 1,972. You play in the most games in your career, chances are you're going to rank right up there in winning games too. Of course, Rose himself had a lot to do with that, and his teams locked down 1,972 victories over his career. Most career hits by a switch hitter, 4,256. Since Pete was a switch hitter, he would have owned the record for the all-time hits by a switch hitter once he set the overall record, naturally. But he actually took down Frankie Frisch's mark of 2,880 way back in 1977, and Topps commemorated the event with a record breaker card, number 6, in their 1978 base set. Most career runs by a switch hitter, 2,165. As you might expect, Rose holds most of the counting-type records among switch hitters, outside of power and speed categories. Though he did manage 160 home runs and 198 stolen bases during his career. Overall, he stands 6th in runs scored, first among switch hitters. Most career doubles by a switch hitter, 746. Similarly, Rose is second on the doubles list, behind Tris Speaker, and first among switch hitters. Most career walks by a switch hitter, 1,566. Sounding familiar yet? Rose is 14th in career bases on balls, but leads all switch hitters. Most career total bases by a switch hitter, 5,752. And finally, on our run of switch hitter accomplishments, Pete Rose owns the 9th highest total bases count of all time, but he stands first among men who batted from both sides of the plate. Most seasons, 200 or more hits, 10. In order to knock down the big career records in baseball, you have to be excellent, and you have to be excellent for a long, long time. Rose combined durability and consistency better than most players in history, which manifested in records like his 10 seasons of 200 or more hits. Ichiro Suzuki tied that record in 2010, by the way, and amazingly, Ichiro racked up his 10 seasons in a row from 2001 to 2010. For Rose, Topps marked the occasion of his 10th 200-hit season in 1979 with a 1980 Topps highlights card, number 4 in the base set that summer. Most consecutive seasons, 100 or more hits, 23. 100 hits in a season is not that big a deal. 181 different players hit that target in 2019, after all. But to do it each season for 23 summers in a row? Yeah, that's definitely something special. Rose is the only one to do it. Most consecutive seasons, 600 or more at-bats, 13. Same type of thing here. Play at a high level for a long time, stay healthy, and you'll run up a ton of big at-bat seasons. Only Pete reached this level, though. Most seasons, 600 or more at-bats, 17. That previous one was just for consecutive seasons with 600 plus at-bats from 1968 to 80. Pete tagged on 4 more for good measure, 1963, 1965, 1966, and 1981. Most seasons, 150 or more games played, 17. You don't ring up a ton of at-bats without playing in a lot of games, and Pete made it into 150 or more for 17 seasons. Fell just short in 1967 and 1968, too. Most seasons, 100 or more games played, 23. The only season Rose didn't make it into at least 100 games was his last, 1986, with the Reds. National League records. Since Rose played his entire career in the National League, and since he's the all-time hit leader, of course he's also the National League leader for career hits. In fact, that goes for all his Major League records listed previously. So this section lists out the records Rose holds in the National League, but for which he is not also the overall all-time leader. It's worth noting, though, that Rose set the National League record for hits back in 1980, and that landed him on a couple of special cards. This 1982 Topps highlight, number 4. And this 1982 Topps Kmart highlight, number 44. Most years played, 24. There are other players who have played some of their career in the National League and logged more than 24 years total, Nolan Ryan, for example. But Rose is the top of the heap when it comes to National League only players. Most consecutive years played, 24. So Pete didn't leave and come back. Most players don't, but there are a few notable guys who did. Ryne Sandberg, Satchel Paige, Jimmy Fox, Ted Williams, and Willie Mays come to mind. Not Rose, though, so years played equal consecutive years played, and it's a big number either way you look at it. Most career doubles, 746. Rose finished 46 doubles behind Tris Speaker and 21 in front of Stan Musial, solidly in second place overall and first among National Leaguers. Most career games, 5 or more hits, 10. 5 hits in a game is a lot. How's that for stating the obvious? Well, Pete did it 10 times, more than anyone else, with Tony Gwynn next with 9 games, and then a bunch of other Hall of Famer types at 7. Longest hitting streak post-1900, 44 games. In the summer of 1978, Rose lit the game on fire and set his sights on Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hitting streak. Alas, Rose fell short, hitting safely in 44 straight games. That puts him on top of all National League streaks since 1900, but behind old-timer Wee Willie Keeler's 45-game haul split between 2 seasons, 1896 through 97. Most hitting streaks of 20 or more games, 7. Let's do a little bit more of super obvious stuff. Getting a hit in 20 games in a row is really hard to do. Rose did that on 7 different occasions, more than any other National Leaguer. Other stuff. Rose owns a couple of other marks that qualifies as records, but don't line up quite as neatly as those previously stated. Among those are the fact that he made 17 All-Star appearances across 5 different positions. First base, second base, third base, right field, left field. No one else has ever done that. Rose also played in more than 500 games at each of those positions in his career. No one else has ever did that either. Also, according to Wikipedia, Rose retired as the National League leader in fielding percentage in both left and right field. So yeah, the rundown of Pete Rose records is pretty impressive, and all those mosts and bests lead to some pretty nifty baseball cards. It's all part of baseball's storied history, no matter what you think of the man himself. Like our video? Then like our video and subscribe to our channel. waxpackgods.com